I mean, can we just sit here for a second and appreciate that he didn't also try and have a crater named after himself when he heard about that?
I'm sure he's
Come on. Like,
he'll write an executive order.
I mean, you guys, what we should have done. What would have been?
No.
So I have been doing my Trump impersonation around Pamela somewhat regularly, and that's the reaction I'm starting to get. And the only reason why I like that reaction, because I have no desire to really troll you, but that means that my impersonation is getting good enough to bother you. And that makes me happy in that I'm getting good at the impersonation.
You're listening to Premeditated Opinions because, yes, we thought about it, and then we said it anyway. I'm Pamela.
And I'm Josh, and we are two people who somehow share a brain and decided to weaponize our brains with microphones. Each week, we unpack anything, from politics and religion to carpool dread and everything in between.
You know, it would really help us a lot if you followed us on Instagram and YouTube. Giving us a like and a follow is probably the best thing your thumbs will do today.
We are not experts. We are just way too confident in our own opinions. With all that being said, let's get started.
Welcome back to Premeditated Opinions. We are thrilled that you are joining us, and we are coming to you virtually. In keeping with what we talked about in our last episode, we kind of made it very clear that we're trying some new formats, some new approaches, and that is just in an effort to be a little kinder to ourselves and try and acclimate a little bit to just how our lives have changed, because they've changed a bunch in the last few months. And we talked about that all in our last episode. Please go check that out. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, feel free to jump back. But yeah, so I am currently sitting in my office in my house about 50 miles away from where Pamela is sitting at her kitchen table, which is where we have frequently recorded. So yeah, but I think this is going to be totally fine. So
I mean, it's first season, and I got to admit, and this is probably going to sound weird to whoever's listening, but it's weird to like be looking at you like this. Like I'm so used to being like beside you and like you're talking to the camera, and now it's like you're introing to me.
Basically, yeah. Welcome to our Teams call that we are all on together.
That'll be a fun twist for a little bit, but it's all good. It's all good.
Well, man, we've had a lot going on in the world around us since the last time we talked. I mean, I don't want to dive into this first, but we had a whole moon exploration happen from the time we released the last episode to the time this episode's going to release. Like 4 human beings left the Earth and orbited the moon and came back in that time, which is amazing. And I've been a little bit obsessed with it, especially in the last couple of days since they touched down and
a little bit jealous.
Yeah. Seriously, though.
Like, if we happen to break out into World War III, at least they could probably just hang out in orbit a little bit longer.
Right. Yeah. Just stay up there. Yeah. If you got the provisions and the time and whatever, just maybe stay there. But no, so we're going to do a little bit more of this virtual format from time to time as it makes sense, especially between now and the summer. We're probably going to revamp some of this again in the summer. We'll likely go back to some of our previous format, but I don't want to speak too soon about it because it feels like a long ways away, and we'll sort it out when we get there. But anyway, so one of the things that Pamela and I have been talking about is we have a podcast called Premeditated Opinions, and we have done some work in the last 6 months of the existence of this podcast to express some of those opinions and reinforce them, you know, and argue our sides and whatever. And one of the things that we thought would be a lot of fun is kind of getting back to that a little bit. And this all kind of stemmed from an article that you found, actually, that just kind of brought up something that women specifically are dealing with literally all over the world, and is getting a little bit more media attention now. And I think it's interesting and compelling. And why don't you set the stage a little bit for us as to kind of what you found and why you think it's important?
Yeah. So before I hop into that, real quick, with the premeditated opinions, we have been very cautious, I guess, in how we proceed in those opinions, because especially being a new-ish podcast, we didn't want to alienate the audience with our opinions.
Sure.
But now we're kind of wanting to lean a little bit harder into what those opinions are. And I thought, since we were kind of changing formats a little bit, I thought it would be interesting to have a female and male perspective on some of this stuff.
For sure.
And we'll have other topics or legislation or whatever that we'll talk through the good, the bad, the ugly, female perspective, male perspective. But when I was reading this article, it got me thinking, and then I actually asked my husband about it, and his opinion was not exactly what I was anticipating. I mean, it wasn't far off from what I was expecting, but that just kind of got the wheels turning about, like, this would be a really great conversation for us to have, like, and actually premeditate our opinions before we hit record.
Yeah. Not a bad idea.
Okay, so the it's legislation that's being proposed in Kenya. And it's basically, they are deciding whether or not they want to allow women to have 2 days off a month for menstrual cycle things.
Yeah.
And I had mixed opinions about it, honestly. I don't know. So Josh actually has an article pulled up.
I do.
Is there any more meat that we can give them with that?
Yeah, so absolutely. So this was, I'm reading this off of the ABC affiliate in Chicago. They actually posted this article, and it's all centered around women's health. And essentially, you're right, it's legislation in Nairobi, Kenya, but it's actually, the way that they're approaching this is interesting. So the leadership involved with the county where Nairobi is located is who is proposing this. So this would only initially affect employees of that county, but there's 18,000 female employees in that county. So it's a large group, and it's consistent with some other efforts that are starting to take place in other parts of the world, specifically Africa and Europe. But so the new policy took effect in December 2025. So it's going now.
Oh, okay.
And it grants county government employees in the capital, Nairobi, 2 days off every month to deal with the pain and discomfort of menstruation, with the aim of improving productivity and well-being. And then it goes on to talk a little bit about just kind of how this came about, how women have responded to it, and like just in general the change in quality of life that's involved with something like this. You know, when there's,
okay, I want to put a pin in that.
Yeah.
And talk through our opinions on it, and then I want to come back and hear what some of the results are. Because
sure.
I haven't followed up on it since I heard about it.
Yeah, so just a tiny bit more context without getting too far ahead of us. But Japan was actually the first country in the world to universally adopt this sort of plan, and that went into place way back in 1947.
Oh,
so that's an almost 80-year-old policy. And many other countries have followed suit since then. The most recent country to pass legislation that essentially carved out time for women to deal with period cramps or whatever was Spain in 2023. But other countries have widely adopted these policies already. So all that to say, they're not the first. They are the most recent, and it's getting some publicity.
That's wild to me. Like, never heard of this before. Never, ever heard of this being an option. And yet it's been around for almost 100 years. That's insane. That's insane. Okay. So when I first heard this, I had mixed opinions, and honestly, they weren't very female friendly. My first thought was, it was like, how do you keep people from abusing it. Like, obviously, you're not, you can't, you shouldn't show proof of
Right.
the
Right.
situation. You also can't show proof of pain. And so how do you keep people from just taking 2 days off every month for something else that's completely unrelated?
Yeah.
That was kind of my first thought. Second thought was like, how is this fair
Mm.
to like men? Like, would there be an equivalent? Like, would there, like, how are men kind of reacting to this? And it's just really interesting because that those were my initial thoughts,
Yeah.
because it just tells you just how ingrained in the system we are
Mm.
here in America, of just like the first thing is automatically negative
Right.
around, legislation around females. This is tricky for me because I don't agree with legislation on bodies.
Mm.
So, but I don't know. This is a little bit different.
For sure.
Yeah. So, and I guess initially too, it's like, oh, hell yeah. Like, that'd be awesome. Like, to have, the option
Hmm.
to take time off. Like, there are days, and we're going to get just a smidge TMI here, where I might
Yeah.
not necessarily have like a cramping issue or a pain issue, but I could have a heavy
Yeah.
cycle. And I remember being just in school and in work and having those moments when it's like, am I going to have to go home? Like,
Mm.
because I'm having, a heavy situation that month.
Yeah.
So it'd be nice for some of that to be an option.
Well, but I think these are good questions, in that you're like, I think the point that, or at least one of the points you're driving home, is that, I mean, women are not created equal. And so, like, the experience that you have versus the experience that other women are having, and obviously I'm speaking to this without being a uterus owner, but the experience that you're having versus the experience that other women are having are going to be fundamentally different.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, I see how they're working towards making space for whatever that experience is.
Mm-hmm.
When you initially sent this to me, one of my first thoughts was, I was impressed by the fact that Kenya, of all places, was making this kind of headline. So
exactly, I want to hear about this.
Yeah.
So
for the uninitiated, I have been to East Africa quite a bit. There was a season of my personal and professional life where I found myself there a lot, specifically in Kenya. I've also been to Uganda, Tanzania, South Africa. I've been to Malawi. Had a brief stopover in Mozambique. Like, I've been on that continent, spent some time there, particularly in Kenya. I've been there probably somewhere around 30 times. I'm not sure exactly how many. So this is a place I'm familiar with. I have dear friends who live there, like wonderful, wonderful people. This is a very, very patriarchal culture. This is, I mean, women are not often in big positions of leadership, especially outside of Nairobi. So Nairobi itself is a very industrialized city. You can walk around downtown Nairobi, it's going to feel like downtown Fort Worth. Like, there's large buildings, there's people everywhere. It's a hub for the United Nations, and so there's all sorts of different kinds of people walking around. Nairobi itself is very industrialized. It's one of the more progressive places in East Africa for sure. And it's still pretty patriarchal. And if you go any distance outside of Nairobi in any direction, you get into some heavily patriarchal cultures, because it's a very tribal tribal part of the world. And so there's a handful of sort of the primary tribes in those areas. But in these tribal cultures, in many cases, the men are the leaders. So I'm saying all this to say, like, this isn't a part of the world that I would expect to be passing any sort of legislation around
Mm-hmm.
protecting the experiences of women, for lack of a better way to say it.
Yeah, I mean, very progressive, and more progressive than what we have, which is hilarious.
Right.
We are a more progressive country, but yet you have a more patriarchal country that's implementing this,
Right.
Or has implemented this. So,
but my first question though, in reading through it, and this is actually mentioned a little bit in the article, but I thought of it right away, is like, would you, as a female employee of a major organization, feel comfortable going to your superiors, who are likely male, and being like, hey, I'm on my period and it really sucks, and I'm going to take the next 2 days off because of that? Is that something you feel good about going to your leadership and expressing? Like, because to me, I think I totally hear what you were saying about the potential abuse of it. I also think that exists in just about any sort of PTO form. Like,
that is true. That is true.
It can get leveraged in all sorts of ways.
Yeah. And I mean, honestly, corporate America has changed a lot, especially since COVID. There were a lot of great things that came out of that time period, not so great things that came out of that time period as well. But I think also social media has played a big role in perceptions and the way that men start to talk about feminine issues, and coming around to talking about cycles like it's not taboo, or
Right.
like gross, like the I feel like, at least in the circles that I'm in, a lot of that is shifting to where it's becoming more comfortable to talk about.
Yeah, I agree.
Growing up, millennial, it was very much a thing you didn't talk about. You definitely wouldn't talk about it at work.
Yeah.
You definitely wouldn't be talking about it with male coworkers. So to get back to your question, would I feel comfortable? Maybe. It depends. Like, it depends on if the person that I'm working with, how progressive they are. Like, is it something that they're comfortable talking about? But on the flip side, I also think that we shouldn't have to give reasons for why we're taking off, like sick days, PTO, like vacation. I do sometimes fall into the, like, it's none of your business why I'm taking this time off, and respecting privacy. I'm sure if this was implemented, I'm sure after a while, people could probably start to figure out, like, oh, I'm going to be out today and tomorrow. Like,
yeah.
And then they could do the math. But I also think corporate America has shifted a little bit. A lot more companies are adopting unlimited PTO. And what they're finding is that those policies, people actually take less time off.
Yeah.
Because they're like, oh, I have the time available. I can take it whenever I want. And so for the most part, like, people actually take less time off. And I kind of see this as almost one of those kind of things where it's like, I would probably only use it if I really needed it.
Yeah.
And you have the remote and on-site situation, and hybrid. So, remote situation would be, just for me personally, I probably wouldn't use it, because I'm privileged in the fact that, like, mine don't usually cause me a lot of pain.
Yeah.
But I could definitely see, like, someone with PCOS, endometriosis, like, or just women who have just painful cycles. They could definitely benefit from this. I think back to, like, my time in corporate America and just how it was just so much suspicion and speculation around why people were like taking so many days off and all. And so I think that's why my head went there originally. I mean, I guess my first thought was, that's awesome. And then my second thoughts were, wait, kind of this negative path. But if I was in the office, I could see still taking maybe a day off every couple of months or two, just depending on, how, and that's the other thing is not your cycle every month isn't the same.
Right.
You know, women know that, men do not, or some do. But, so I could definitely see where it would be beneficial in the times when you need it. And then with the hybrid situation, depending on how flexible your hybrid situation is, like I would just work from home on those days versus taking time off. Again, it's kind of difficult for me to speak to it just because I don't really have a lot of those issues, but I do think I do appreciate that it's, well, I wish it was being considered here.
Yeah.
Maybe it is somewhere. I don't know. Maybe somebody implements it. Maybe some company has it or whatever. But I don't know. It was something I'd never heard about before. And I just was like, that's really interesting. Like,
there was something that you brought up earlier, just as far as the perspectives of men with this, of like, well, if my female coworkers are getting to take advantage of this PTO policy, like, how is that fair? I don't.
Or like, what is the male perspective on that? I guess, like, does it?
Yeah.
Is it even like a fairness issue, or is it one of those like, oh, this makes perfect sense, like that they would get, maybe extra time off, but then what about abuses of that? And like, I don't know. I'm a little bit curious of your thoughts on it.
The problem with my thoughts is they're going to lean pretty progressive for a lot of reasons. Yeah. And not only am I, married to somebody who is quite the feminist and, is a huge believer in any sort of policy that gives women some, additional flexibility during all sorts of seasons of life, be it pregnancy, be it menstrual cycles, be it whatever. So I am already kind of coming from a place of these kinds of conversations and considerations have been normalized in my life. And so I'm probably not a good representative of the bulk of the male perspective on this.
Yeah.
I would hope that my male comrades would see this for the positive that it is and understand that, hey man, we don't have to deal with this. Like, we get to skip all of this discomfort and this annoyance. I mean, it's a massive pain in the ass. And so, like, I don't really feel entitled to have the same access to that kind of care when I'm not experiencing any of the same kind of situations and symptoms. And so, to me, if this makes the women that I am directly working with feel valued, feel seen and understood, feel like they have a minute to catch their breath in something that can be very, very difficult for them, I'm all for it. Like, I have zero complaints about it at all. It's like the people who complain about, well, this person gets to go take smoke breaks and I don't get to take smoke breaks. Well, yeah, dude, they're also sucking on things that are going to kill them 20 years earlier than they should. Like, it's not, we're not talking about the same things here. And so, I think that's where my head goes, is like, I am all for whatever makes everybody around me in the workplace feel like that they're seen, that they are understood, that they're given opportunities to perform at their best. And even the article doesn't, like, it just went into action in December 2025, but there's some comments from the leadership of that county, essentially, who helped implement this stuff. And he says, and I think it matters that it's a he, but he says, your biggest asset is your staff, who said Sakaja, which is the last name of the gentleman who implemented this. So your biggest asset is your staff, said Sakaja, who shepherded the new practice and oversees a government where more than half of the employees are women. It starts with dignifying your own staff for them to feel that they're respected. I mean, that's good leadership, man. Like that's seeing and understanding the situations of the people around you and implementing policies that provide support to those situations. Like, I'm here for it. Will it be abused? Probably. Yeah. But by a very low percentage of people, I imagine.
Yeah.
And, to me personally, I'm not that concerned about it, especially if the byproduct of that is everyone gets to be more comfortable, everyone's more productive, everyone is, given the flexibility they need to feel like they're up to the task of doing their job well. And I'm way more concerned about working with people who feel empowered and like they have the tools and resources that they need on a practical level, and then giving them the opportunities to deal with the realness of life when it comes around. So I'm here for it.
It would be great if this was something, we were considering at like the federal level, but if we're being real, we can barely get PTO. Like, there's no government mandate around paid time off. We barely can get maternity leave. And so, like, I don't see anything like this being adopted federally. Maybe I could see some, organizations like Google and things like that. Probably, maybe they already have something like this. I don't know. I didn't dig into it. But I thought that was coming to me when you were speaking is, we can barely get maternity leave, and it's usually 6 weeks, which is nothing. If you've ever had a child, 6 weeks is not enough time.
Yeah.
And like, we're starting to see more paternity leave, being adopted. And so, which is great. And you don't always have to take maternity and paternity leave at the same time. Again, that's organization to organization. But one thing I also thought about with this is like, does it have to be like 2 days for, a menstrual situation? What if, I could almost see like a male argument of like, well, I get headaches. I get like some other ailment, or, not all women have their uterus anymore.
Right.
So what does that look like to them? Do they care? Or, would they like to have 2 additional days for some other ailment that they're going through, versus it just being around, cycles. So
That's fair. I mean, you could even couch it as like, hey, what if we implemented a policy where there's the kind of 2 personal days a month that are no questions asked. And so it's sure, if you want to, if you've got a particularly tough cycle and you're just really hurting, you're really uncomfortable, and it's reached the point of distraction, then by all means, like, utilize those no questions asked days, and get the help you need. Even if that help is rest, that's still help. And I think that easily spills over into some needs that men could have. Now, we're a bunch of prideful morons who don't like to take care of ourselves, but like, there's arguments to be made for like, okay, what if I'm trying to see a therapist? What if it's not even mental? What if it's also physical? It's like, hey, I need physical therapy for this thing that I've been dealing with for years, and I'm having a hard time figuring out when to make it happen because office schedules are what they are. And so, maybe the solution on a broader level is that implementation of just personal days that we don't need to connect to a reason. It's just, we're dealing with something in our personal lives. We need to step away and take care of it so that when we come back, we're coming back better than we left. And to your point about maternity leave and paternity leave too, like, that's you and I both have been on the receiving ends of paternity and maternity. Oh, well, paternity me, maternity you, obviously. But,
Yeah.
but like, that is the fact that we don't have any sort of nationally standardized program for that is ludicrous. Like,
Exactly. So like, as nice as it is to think about this, it's like we still have basic things that we need to address,
mhm,
within, nationwide, as far as having sick time, having vacation time. Like technically, an organization doesn't have to give you either one of those. I think they do have to give you maternity leave, the 6 weeks, but again, it's short-term disability.
right,
Like it's not really time off. You have to file for short-term disability to get paid for 6 weeks, and I think even then I only got paid like 2/3 of my paycheck.
right.
And so it's like I think we kind of need to start with that, and
Mhm.
then if we could ever actually get something passed where we would have, I mean, honestly, 2 weeks of time off a year is not enough. But
No,
if we could even just get that, and maybe two weeks of vacation, a week of sick time, 6 weeks of maternity leave, like mandated
mhm,
at the federal level, and that's just basic,
right,
then it's like, okay, now start folding in additional weeks for maternity leave, additional time for paternity leave, and then maybe like these 2 days. So I mean, I'm glad that all these other countries are getting this. Hopefully they have better time off policies than we do here in America.
yeah,
But it was definitely something that caught my attention, because yes, feminist, progressive, all the things. But it is nice to see positive legislation around females and women,
yeah.
and it being embraced. Like I said earlier, when I mentioned this to my husband, I actually anticipated his reaction to be similar to mine, but he just goes, "Well, hell yeah." He's like,
Bless
"That's
him.
awesome." I was like, so to be fair, so he has come up in a male dominated industry.
Hmm.
I have had to, I think I'm not going to take credit for this, but like he has seen the struggles that I've gone through in corporate and as a female, and all the things that I've struggled with that he hasn't.
Hmm.
And now that he's kind of in a corporate role, he's been getting it.
Yeah.
It's been a several year process, but like he's definitely on the feminist train now. Like, I mean, he's not like rah like burning
Yeah.
bras, but like
Yeah.
he he's definitely been surprising me with some of the things, just because again, from the male dominated
Yeah.
industry perspective, there are times I'm like anticipating him to be like, well, what are our 2 days, or what about this, or what about that, but he just embraced it, and I was like, progress
Yeah.
over perfection.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and any Europeans who are listening to a word we're saying right now are like, what are y'all talking about? Like
Oh yeah.
6 weeks for maternity leave and 2 weeks PTO a year? Like that is laughable to most of Europe. Europe,
And
the
they don't
hand,
have to give it to us. They don't
right,
have to give it to us.
right.
Except
It's
for maternity leave. I think they have to, for FMLA, you can take up to 12 weeks off a year.
okay.
So if you use up all your 12 weeks with maternity leave, then that's it. You're done.
Wow.
Like you get no more than 12 weeks. Those are not paid.
Yeah.
It's just securing your job. If you
Crazy.
want to get paid, you have to file for short-term disability.
Hmm.
And I filed for short-term disability, but I think with maternity leave, it only paid up to 6 weeks, and it was only 2/3 of my pay. So anytime after that, I had to use any PTO that I had saved up. So I was burning up all my vacation time. I was burning up all my sick time to even just get to 10 weeks off,
Yeah.
which is still not enough time.
No.
And then you get screwed because babies need checkups every week, every month. There's all this. So that's additional time off
Right.
that now you don't have banked anymore.
Right.
And so it's changing. That's how it was when I had my daughter. That was 13 years ago. It's definitely, things have come a long way since then. But again, there's the only government protection, if you will, is the FMLA leave.
Yeah.
And all it does is ensure that they can't fire you while you're out.
Yeah. And you know what a brand new mother wants to deal with? Paperwork. They want to deal with like the process of getting all of that done in the right ways, submitted in the right ways, and then hoping that it gets turned around in a reasonable amount of time. And then, you know what? The other thing that makes perfect sense about all of this is, you know what? You're a brand new mom with a brand new baby. You probably only need 2/3 of your paycheck. That's actually, that's going to be enough, right? Because, you don't have new things to account for in your finances. You don't have.
Yeah. On top of all the health insurance crap you're going to have to go through, like whatever that situation looks like for you. I mean, it is a nightmare to have a baby in America. Like if you're a working mom, there's a lot of, for what, like, there's all this paperwork for very little benefits. Like you got to go through all these hoops and all this crap, and then you're just like, oh, okay, like thanks for allowing me to survive, I guess. I mean,
just keeping me basic.
I have, and then I mean, on top of all the childhood expenses, like, I was fortunate in being able to breastfeed, but like not every mother can or wants to do that. So you got formula expenses, you've got daycare expenses. We've talked about that before, and the cost of childcare. So it's like, let's just say this wasn't my situation, but like, let's say I got my 6 weeks of 2/3 of my pay. I used up all my, PTO. Let's say I was out for 10 weeks. Now I'm coming back into the workforce. That means I have to have my kid in childcare, and I've just been docked a huge chunk of my pay. So I'm already starting at a deficit. But I'm grateful for all the paperwork just to get me to a deficit. This is amazing.
Right. Yeah, we're really doing a great job of taking care of the American family. And what's really funny to me, and I don't want to get off on this tangent, but I think it's worth noting just a little bit, is like our current presidential administration has pushed and pushed like we want to be a country that's having babies. We want to replace this population that we've lost and all that. There's been this huge push for families to have more kids. Well, you know what would actually help those things, instead of you getting behind a podium and trying to regale us with how great we would be if it happened? Why don't we implement some of these other policies around maternity leave and around childcare costs and all this stuff? If you want people to have more kids, help them do it. Like, anyway, that's a whole other deal. But
according to our president, we don't have the money for childcare. We have a war to fund
that we started.
Yeah. And we won't get down that's a whole other podcast.
Yeah, we need to save that for a Tequila Tuesday.
Right. Yes. Oh, that's some tea. But like they're making it harder and harder. People are like, oh, fewer people are having kids. Like, because you make it impossible. You make it impossible to have kids safely, to afford them after they're here. People are barely scraping by taking care of themselves, particularly the generation coming up. And you want them to throw a kid on top of that?
Right.
I heard somewhere, I don't have any statistics or anything, but like apparently like Gen Z is having less sex than.
I've heard that repeatedly.
And I mean, honestly, like I don't blame them. Like I would not want to bring a kid into whatever this is right now. Like, And we would be hard pressed financially to I don't even want to know what daycare costs around here.
Oh, it's yeah.
And there's no subsidies, there's no help, and this administration's doing everything they can to make it harder and harder.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
so anyway,
it's brutal. So just today, I had it. So my wife, my son, and I had lunch with my sister-in-law, my wife's sister.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And she just had a baby a year ago, almost exactly a year ago. And so I have this adorable little niece, the cutest
so
little thing.
Cute.
Yeah,
oh my God.
To our listeners, my wife and I both were sending photos and videos to Pamela the whole time we were there. But she's just delightful, a great kid, and the only way Emily, my sister-in-law, she is working full time at a large corporate job. She does well for herself. She's worked hard to get where she is. I'm very proud of her. And she's still relying on my mother-in-law as a twice a week caregiver, which I have absolutely no judgment on whatsoever, because it's the only way that she can afford financially to have this kid. Because to put a 1-year-old in daycare costs, I mean, north of $2,000 a month easily.
Yeah. And a lot of grandparents don't want to be babysitters,
Right.
This generation that's coming up. I mean, they want to have their own lives. They want to do their own things. They love their grandkids, but they don't want to be burdened with child. So again, I mean, you're losing that option as well.
Right.
So
it's a lot, and there's not an easy solution, but what has to happen first is we have to have people in places of power that actually have these perspectives in the first place. And if we're going to get beat by Kenya in taking care of our women, I hope someone's paying attention to that. We shouldn't get beat by Kenya in this. I love Kenya. It is a great country. It's beautiful. The people are amazing, and we should be ahead of them in this. It's ridiculous. But anyway, I love that this exists.
To kind of bring this back around, I know that I asked you to put a pin in the rest of the article. Was there anything in addition? So how it's kind of being adopted, or
it's new enough to where there's not much in the way of sort of updated statistics or anything like that, but there is some commentary which I did think was interesting. So so I'm just going to read straight from this article. Again, this is the Chicago ABC affiliate that published this, if anyone wants to look it up. But it says there's been very little public objection. Critics have said that the policy could discourage employers from hiring more women, but Sakaja disagreed, saying he believes that women perform better than men when they are supported, which I think was interesting. Women currently lead the Nairobi County government's business and health portfolios. So there are women at the top of some of the decision-making bodies for this organization. And then I like this. This is another quote from Sakaja, who is the county governor, is what he's called. So it says, "A lot of labor policies were written many years ago by men," the governor said. "Women's rights are not anti-productivity. They are an input that creates productivity. It's actually an investment in your workforce." He said there'd be no financial impact as the county has more than one person for each role. And then it kind of goes on to talk about some of the other countries that inspired some of this. And then there's some quotes from some women in here that are mostly just kind of reinforcing what's already been said as far as feeling more productive because they feel seen and they feel taken care of.
That's awesome.
Sorry, I just stumbled on this. I'm so sorry. I didn't read this before. So at least 12 women from her department, including a senior director, benefited from the leave in February. The policy is a no questions asked, no forms filled arrangement and offers paid leave alongside the usual sick and annual paid leave enshrined in labor law. Nairobi has implemented the policy using a cabinet decree and an internal memo and some political blah, blah, blah. But basically, so they're saying it is no questions asked. So
Nice.
so they're not having to go to their superiors and say, "Hey, I'm on my period,"
But I appreciate how they're marketing it. I mean, if it is just no questions asked, time off, I appreciate that they are saying like, hey, this can be used for that.
Yeah.
And I honestly love that it's a male that's driving this and supporting it
Yeah.
and defending it, which I mean is pretty awesome. I mean, it's hard to find that here, people in
Yeah.
positions of power that are male who are willing to stand up for, you know, any type of female legislation. So, you know, I
Yeah.
think that's amazing, and good for them.
Yeah. Agreed. Good for them. I love it. I hope we see more of it. I hope they're setting a tone,
Hmm.
and, you know, creating a target to hit for more people. And it even mentions in the article too that they're hoping that this is sort of a positive influence. And they name mostly African nations, but I think it's easily spread to, you know, globally. I think this could be extremely beneficial, even if it's implemented in different ways, different areas, different cultures, whatever. Anything
Hmm.
we can do to make life a little easier for people who have to bleed every month as a regular part of their existence doesn't seem like a bad deal. You know, I saw this shirt a
Hmm.
long time ago that stuck with me. Um, it's actually a former coworker wore this shirt on a project that I was working on once. It said, "Anything you can do, I can do bleeding." And
Oh,
and I thought, you know, I mean, it's a little pointed, but at the same time, I was like, where's the lie? Like,
yeah.
this isn't
Yeah.
wrong. Like,
Hmm. Well, and I
it's
think we forget about that too. I mean, at least in my perspective, I mean, it just becomes so much a part of your life.
yeah,
And it's, you know, you to stop and actually think about the fact, like what's actually going on. You're like,
right,
oh,
yeah,
like, yeah, yeah, um, yeah.
yeah. It's quite the. I really love that this exists, that this policy exists, that it's starting to make a little bit of news. I really hope that, like, speaking as a male, I hope that this continues to push things forward to normalize some of these conversations, like
Hmm.
in environments where there are men. Because you know what? For the dudes listening, guess what, man? Every woman in your life is dealing with this to some degree. And if they're not
Hmm.
now, they were several years ago. Like,
Hmm.
this is not, this is, I heard it said one time that a women's menstrual cycle is the oldest thing that your body does, which I thought was a very interesting perspective. It's the oldest thing that your body does. Women have had cycles since women existed. And
Yeah.
so the this is only taboo because we've decided to make it taboo.
Hmm.
And I don't think it serves anybody, including men, to continue with the taboo. Who are we
Hmm.
serving? All we're doing is making ourselves, we're giving ourselves permission to avoid something because it can be awkward. Okay, life's awkward, dude. Like, this is just part of our existence, and every single
Hmm.
person listening to this podcast came from women,
Hmm.
and have
I
women to
mean, you know,
thank.
half the population
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
is, you know,
we would all do a little bit better to understand
yeah.
the fullness of a population and not just be
Hmm.
limited to our own experiences. But that is a soapbox I'll save for a different day too. But
Yay,
yeah.
patriarchy.
Yeah. And what's cool
I'm
is we're
a,
so close to getting rid of it too. You know, it's
I
just
know, I know. But I'm telling you, like, if the world had been run by women this whole time, like, periods would not be a thing. Like a topic, like a taboo or
mhm.
awkward. Like, it would just be
Yeah,
part of conversation, like just like anything else. It
yeah,
wouldn't be this like shame
right,
thing,
yeah,
that
absolutely.
white people made it into. Sorry. No, not just that. I'm just kidding. Um,
Yeah,
anyway.
you're probably right, but no, yeah, I love that this came up, and I think it's important dialogue, and
Hmm.
I feel like if in chatting through this we made anybody squirm, I'm kind of okay with it. Like, it doesn't bother
Yeah,
me. I think that we
we
can,
need to get used. Like, I don't want to like say we need to normalize this, but like we need to make it not a thing, like not a
yeah,
thing that's like we avoid or that we're uncomfortable with,
yeah,
which is normalizing it, but still.
a little bit. That's fine. Well, the other thing that I've been just kind of obsessed with this week, which I think most people have been obsessed with. Oh, the Artemis 2 astronauts. Oh, man. Put that stuff in my veins. Okay, so before I get to... So you and I haven't really talked about this much. We talk about loads of current events. We're constantly in conversation about current events. But we haven't really talked about this much. So before I go on a massive tangent here, what do you know about this? And am I just leaving you behind in trying to talk about this? Because I've been so fascinated.
I mean, I've known about it for a while. I know that I didn't know it was going to be a quick trip. I thought they were actually landing on the moon. I didn't realize that they were just kind of going around. I could be incorrect, but my understanding is like this is kind of like a prep course. Like they wanted to go and like see the dark side of the moon, get some images, and then they were just coming back. I think they've landed. Like it was only a couple of days. I know there's going to be, I know that there are launches to Mars coming up as well. I don't know if this has anything to do with that. I've honestly I've been paying attention to the messages from the astronauts in space and all that, but I've been diving into some of the conspiracy theories just because it's interesting. Like I'm not a conspiracy theorist. Like I do believe that we went on the moon, but it is just fun sometimes just to hear people's crazy theories about like if they're actually in space and it's just a green screen and everybody's just nitpicking the hell out of like every frame of their videos and all that. So I don't know. I mean, it's interesting, but yeah, that's about where I'm at with it.
Well, we're not too far off. So I, in the week or so leading up to Artemis 2's launch, I was kind of paying attention because it was big news in like the aerospace world. And for the uninitiated, I'm a huge aerospace nerd. I love everything that flies. I'm fascinated by it. I love just to...
Well, it's your dad's profession too.
Exactly. Yeah. My dad and a lot of my dad's side of the family. It's sort of the family business. And so there are loads of them are in aerospace in all sorts of different capacities, from pilots to manufacturing to design, all of it.
And DFW is a big hub for this. Like we've got Lockheed Martin. There's so many airports around here. So
yeah, huge.
Yeah.
So it's, I'm always fascinated by anything that flies, and I'm always fascinated by things that go to space. Like that's so cool. And so I was kind of geeking out about the technology of it all, and then I started reading up about the actual astronauts who were on the mission. And I'm telling you, that is 4 of the most wholesome people, like intelligent, skilled, but also just salt of the earth, good human beings. Like every time they talked, I was like, yes, more of this, more, just keep talking. I love everything that you're saying. And it was a 10-day trip, and you're right. It was basically a scouting mission. So, they were testing the route that will be done by Artemis 3, which I think launches in 2027. And Artemis 3 will land on the surface of the moon and will take with it a bunch of supplies and resources to start building a little bit of a base, basically, on the moon, which I think is a piece of the puzzle in launching missions to Mars. And so as the moon is a little more than 200,000 miles away from Earth, I believe. So basically, Artemis 2, they did a big loop around the moon. They never got closer. They were like 4,000 miles off the surface of the moon. They didn't get closer than that. And then they slingshot it back to Earth, and they splashed down just off the coast of California on Friday. And so at the time of this tape, we're filming on a Sunday, so it's a couple days ago. And then there were so they were brought in, and all these medical checks were done and things like that. And then they held this big event. And I also have this article pulled up. I'm moving it to where I can see it right now. But they had this big event where all of the astronauts kind of had a chance to speak about their experiences.
Oh,
And I'm obsessed with these four. Like,
yeah.
I think they're
Okay.
so great. And there's also this viral photo um, that is the four of them that they've finished their mission. They're on their last full day and they're on their way back to Earth. And there's this photo of them kind of celebrating their last day. And the four of them are just in this zero gravity group hug.
Oh,
And
I think I heard about this. Yeah.
yes, and they're smiling and there's tears. Like,
No.
it's just amazing. And I saw a post on social media that I agree with so much, and it was like, isn't this what we're actually craving? Like, isn't this level of community, isn't this level of togetherness, isn't this what we're actually craving?
Apparently, we have to leave this planet in order to get it.
Right, which is ridiculous. But like, it feels so true to me too. It's like there's all sorts of articles and publicity around this epidemic of loneliness that we all feel, and there's a lot of reasons why that's the case. And some of it is social media, some of it is just the disconnects that came as a result of COVID. There's a lot of things we can point towards that have created this sense of loneliness. But what kept coming to my mind when I looked at this photo, and I have looked at it 1,000 times, is the amount of vulnerability that had to exist between these four people is the reason why they feel that sense of closeness and intimacy. And I do not at all mean intimacy in a sexual sense. That is not how I'm using that word. I mean it as like just a connection that cannot be replicated any other way. And in fact, Wiseman, who is one of the astronauts, I've got his quote pulled up right now. He was the commander of the mission. His name is Reed Wiseman. He said, we're bonded forever, and no one down here is ever going to know what the four of us just went through. And it was the most special thing that will ever happen in my life. Before you launch, it feels like it's the greatest dream on Earth. And when you're out there, you just want to get back to your families and your friends. It's such a special thing to be human, and it's such a special thing to be on planet Earth. And there's another guy, one of the other crew members. He says, "So when we saw Tiny Earth, people asked our crew what impressions we had, and honestly, what struck me wasn't necessarily just Earth. It was all the blackness around it. Earth was just this lifeboat hanging undisturbingly in the universe. I know I haven't learned everything that this journey has yet to teach me, but there's one thing I know: it's Earth is full of a heck of a crew." And it just, like, the perspective that they gained, and I love these four humans. I want nothing but wonderful, glorious things for them. It's been such a treat to watch all of this. And the other piece of it too that I enjoyed a lot was there were all these photos that also circulated of the control rooms in Houston and in other areas that were a part of making this mission possible. Those rooms are packed full of women, packed. And I just thought, isn't this kind of what we need? Look what happened. We put women in charge of all of this super technical stuff, and look, it went great. There was no scandal. There was no big revelation. It just was competency from start to finish. And I think that's the other thing that we're really craving. We are so sick of the incompetence of the world that we have been living in. And it's such a breath of fresh air to have something come along that feels like, oh, well, that went well. We designed it to do a thing. It did the thing. Everyone came home unscathed. Pop the champagne. Let's celebrate. I don't know. I've been obsessed with this whole thing. And I thought that the most interesting thing to me was going to be the science of it all. I thought the most interesting thing was going to be the aerospace and the rockets and the trip around the moon and all this stuff. And by far the most interesting thing to me has been the four people in that, in the module. Like,
that's awesome.
Incredible. So please, if for anyone listening who hasn't done a little bit of reading about this, just Google Artemis 2 and just read up a little bit. It will be a breath of fresh air for you, because it's just such a representation of what can be.
There's one story that I did hear about. I didn't know if you were going to bring this up, and maybe you hadn't heard about it, but I heard.
I think I know what you're going to say.
that when they were on the dark side of the moon, there was some sort of crater, like giant
Oh.
crater.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes, I do. Tell the story.
Okay, well, you probably can tell it better than I can, but my understanding is so that they're going around, they're on the dark side, they see this giant crater, and they're like, what are we going to name this crater?
Mm-hmm.
And they named it Carroll,
Yep.
Carroll, after one of the astronauts' wives
Mm.
who is no longer with us.
Yeah.
And that was another one of those moments where I absolutely believe what you're saying, and not even really knowing anything about the astronauts right now. But the fact that they chose to name this giant crater after this man's wife, like,
Yeah.
I just thought that was really cool.
It's extremely cool. So is Carol Carol Wiseman, who is the wife of Commander Reed Wiseman.
Mm-hmm.
And she passed in 2020 at the age of 46 from breast cancer. Or I'm sorry, I'm not sure that it was breast cancer. The article I read just said cancer. I don't want to misrepresent. But she died of cancer in 2020 at the age of 46. And it just, what an incredible story, and being able to have this sort of beacon of a little bit of hope, a little bit of humanity, a little bit of just recognizing that, you know, not everything has to
Be named after Trump.
God, yeah. Yes. I mean, can we just sit here for a second and appreciate that he didn't also try and have a crater named after himself when he heard about that?
I'm sure he's
Come on. Like,
he'll write an executive order.
I mean, you guys, what we should have done. What would have been?
No.
So
No
I have
voice.
been doing my Trump impersonation around Pamela somewhat regularly, and that's the reaction I'm starting to get. And the only reason why I like that reaction, because I have no desire to really troll you, but that means that my impersonation is getting good enough to bother you. And that makes me happy in that I'm getting good at the impersonation. But yeah, but Carol Wiseman, what a wonderful human. It says she dedicated her life to helping others as a newborn ICU nurse.
Oh, yeah.
That was her career. And then it says, despite a long list of professional accolades, Commander Reed considers his time as the only parent his greatest challenge and the most rewarding phase of his life. Wiseman was named commander of the Artemis II mission in 2023. And he really struggled with being named as the commander because he's a single dad of 2 daughters. And his thought process was, what if I go and the worst happens?
Oh, yeah.
Like, I'm the only parent they've got. And so apparently it took him quite some time to even agree to command the mission because
I mean, I don't blame him.
I don't either. But, and you know, I can't even put myself in that place. I have no idea like how to process something like that. But
Well, and then to kind of roll this in to one more topic, I don't know where we are on time, but
we're fine.
You and I and our spouses went to see Project Hail Mary.
Yes, in keeping with our space theme.
Exactly. And so we were in it was a Cinemark theater. They have this new thing called Screen X. So basically you've got the screen, but then they've also got like screens that like project out. And so you kind of feel a little more immersive. They also have these D-box seats.
Yeah.
So like they'll shake and kind of move. So I normally don't get the D-box seats unless I'm going to be in like an action, kind of thing. But I went with the D-box and the Screen X, and I'm actually really glad that I did because, first of all, that movie is incredible.
Yes.
Like there are not words to describe the emotions that you'll feel, and that, and that sense of vulnerability, like you mentioned, with that you kind of feel, I mean, that a little bit just in that, like when you're kind of immersed in that film, which is one of the reasons why I'm like terrified of space. It's just like anything can go wrong. But that movie was phenomenal. But one of the cool things about the D box seats, though, is like the moments where you're they're kind of floating.
Yeah.
The seats would just kind of lightly move, and like you really it messed with me. I don't know if it messed with you, but like it messed with me where I was just like, wait a minute, I think I'm moving too. Like, and it's just very subtle, but I mean, I'm glad we splurged on that. And I would absolutely, I'm not usually a two-time theater person, but I would go see that multiple times.
Same. It was so good.
It was so, I went in not knowing what to expect. All I knew was it was about a teacher that goes in space. I mean, I didn't know if it was like a true story. I didn't know anything about it. It was not what I expected. Not that I had expectations, but it was phenomenal.
It's funny and it's heartfelt, and it pushes against just some norms that we've come to absorb kind of organically. It's a great film. Ryan Gosling is phenomenal in it. If he doesn't get at least an Oscar nod, at least a nomination, then I don't know what y'all are doing. He carries the film. He absolutely carries the film. And, you know, he has I'm not giving away anything here that you won't see in the trailers. So, because I would love for anyone hearing us to actually go see this movie. It's worth the time and money to go see it yourself.
Yes.
But you can see in the trailers, like, he's obviously interacting with an alien that he meets. And I was worried that was going to be cheesy and weird and not really believable. I didn't know what direction they were going to go with that. Was it going to be violent? Was it going to be overly intelligent? What's the deal? And just the way that they even wrote that character and the way that he interacts with it is brilliant. And I was so impressed with that whole film from top to bottom. I thought the writing was great. The acting was great. The art direction, just how everything was designed, how everything felt, was really incredible. I fell down this huge TikTok rabbit hole. I found the puppeteer that actually controls the alien. And I say I found, like I did it. The algorithm fed me this.
Yeah.
And I just kept going. But even just this guy's approach and thought process and how he moved that puppet, it was so thoughtful. Like he clearly sat with this for a long time. What do we want this character to be, and how do I reinforce it with how I make this character move? And it's just brilliant. I thought it was great. So please go see this movie. Like, it deserves every award that it wins. I hope it wins loads of them. I realize that space science fiction films don't usually do well in like awards. But I hope this is
this is so much more than that. Like, it is. There are those moments of anytime you watch a space film, like, you know, Interstellar or that one with Sandra Bullock. I can't remember what it's called. But you get that fear, that like fear of what can go wrong in space. I mean, you get a little bit of that, but that's not what this movie is about. It's space is a big part of it, but it really is about relationships. I mean, again, like it'll make you laugh. It'll make you cry. It'll give you all kinds of feels. I mean, we walked out of that film. First of all, it was the first time I've watched a film where I'm not like looking at the clock to see like, okay, like, are we wrapping up soon? And I walked out and I just didn't know how to feel. I just was like, that was a whole emotional journey. And I would do it again, like in a heartbeat. So
there's our endorsement for you, ladies and gentlemen. It is a premeditated, opinions approved movie. We will rubber stamp that all day. And we would love for you to like go see it. It deserves a big screen. I know it's going to be hard to find now that the Mario movie is out because that's kind of taken up everything. But if you can find it on a big screen, go see it on a big screen. It's so worth it. But yeah, well, we're going to wrap this thing up. We are so grateful that you joined us for a slightly different kind of episode of Premeditated Opinions. And we're going to do some more of this. We're also talking about some additional interviews that we have coming down the pipe that we'll need to get those scheduled and all that stuff. But that's going to be a big part of this next phase too. And yeah, we've got some ideas and some plans, and we're optimistic. So yeah, thanks for hanging with us while we've been virtual this time. But honestly, I think it's gone fine. And so we'll continue to hone our processes and try and make this better.
And for the record, I've been the one that's okay with this. You have been the one that's like,
yes, I will take personal responsibility for this because I am a snob. I am a bougie snob that cares very much about production value, probably too much. And so I will own that. But I've built a career out of being a production snob. So, it's served me well in other ways. But thank you all so much for joining us. We will be back in your ear holes in 2 weeks. We will not be here next week. We'll be here the week after that. And that routine will continue at least until the summer. And then we'll reevaluate and we'll keep you posted. But thank you so much for being here and supporting us. We're so very grateful. And we'll be back with you very soon.
Bye.
Well, that's it for Premeditated Opinions, where the thoughts were fully baked and only mildly regrettable. If you enjoyed today's episode, congrats on having truly excellent taste in podcasts and opinions. Following us on YouTube and Instagram is a quick and easy way to support us. So if you liked literally anything about today's episode, please like and subscribe.
Also, send this to someone who needs to feel seen, dragged, or both. We'll be back next week with more unsolicited insight and emotionally responsible spiraling. And until then, please stay hydrated and behave yourself in the comments. But if you don't, at least make us laugh.